Since the premiere date of HBO's House of the Dragon is just a few weeks away, talks about this highly anticipated series have been non-stop. And jumping onto the bandwagon, for today's video, we'll be discussing how House of the Dragon's recent image teases the relationship between Rhaenyra Targaryen and Alicent Hightower. If you're curious to know more about this topic, make sure you tune in if you don't want to miss out on the latest. First up, Alicent Hightower and Rhaenyra Targaryen's relationship is hinted at in the latest picture of House of the Dragon. House of the Dragon, the prequel to the Game of Thrones series, will soon be released, and Empire magazine has shown yet another exclusive image. The most coveted and uncomfortably designed throne in Westeros, the Iron Throne, was first revealed to us a few days ago, and it resembled the description found in George R.R. Martin's books more than it did the 8 seasons of HBO's Game of Thrones. Finally, an innocent incident between childhood friends Rhaenyra Targaryen and Alicent Hightower has been shown to us. So yes, the heart of the House of the Dragon storyline will be about the relationship of Rhaenyra and Alicent, women who are forced to pick sides because of their familial ties. Two strong, complicated women are at the heart of House of the Dragon. Alicent Hightower, played by Emily Carey in her early years and by Olivia Cooke in her adult years, and Rhaenyra, who was first performed by Millie Alcock and then by Emma Darcy. In the television series, which deviates a little from the books, Alicent, the daughter of the Hand of the King, and Rhaenyra, the daughter of Paddy Considine's King Viserys, were childhood friends who subsequently found themselves on different sides of the socio-political spectrum. In an exclusive interview with Empire, the show's executive producer explains why these two women are put into the limelight in the show. According to Empire, Alexis Rabin, a senior executive at her husband's production firm and the wife of director and executive producer Miguel Sapochnik, had the idea to place these two affluent women at the heart of the story. According to Sapochnik, his wife had the idea. One day she said, "This would be much more interesting if it was about the two main female characters rather than the male characters. If you really focused on the patriarchy's perception of women and the fact that they'd rather destroy themselves than see a woman on the throne." That wasn't a perspective I have ever told before. I think this made the show feel more contemporary too. We said, what if Alicent is like Women for Trump and Rhaenyra's like punk rock? In the recently made public image, Alicent is seen with Rhaenyra in a garden, the latter with her head on her friend's lap and an open book next to her that Alicent appears to be reading. It's a cute picture that shows the friendship between the two women, but based on what we already know about the plot, this tranquil scenario won't last forever, and neither will their friendship. So we know that these two powerful women will play the most crucial part in the show, but what about the other characters? Not to worry, since a featurette with Game of Thrones author George R.R. Martin was recently released, with the author introducing the other vital characters in House of the Dragon. The new characters in the next series have been presented by author George R.R. Martin in a new featurette released in preparation for House of the Dragon. Martin discusses the history of Westeros in the 5-minute animation, which takes place 300 years before the events of Game of Thrones, and sometime after Aegon the Conqueror's conquest. Martin described the series, which is inspired by the civil war he paints in Dance of Dragons. The story of House of the Dragon is a story about very flawed human beings, capable of doing good things, capable of doing monstrous things, capable of courage, and capable of cowardice. These are the kind of characters I love the most. Jaehaerys Targaryen, the fourth Targaryen to rule over Westeros, was just 14 years old when he came to the throne and reigned for 55 years, according to the Game of Thrones author. In terms of Westeros' history, it was a rather tranquil period. King's Landing expanded significantly during this prosperous era, and it was enjoyable. In the featurette, George R.R. Martin also gave a brief history of key characters, along with a little background from where they came from. Regarding the historical period in which the program is situated, Martin introduced the key characters by introducing Viserys I as the heir that had been chosen by the Great Council to succeed Jaehaerys. Viserys I then assumed control of the Seven Kingdoms after Jaehaerys' death. Viewers can observe how the seeds of war can occasionally be sown in times of peace, because there were many Targaryens in that era. Additionally, he added that when people pass away, their sons succeed them as lords. They may not necessarily believe that their father's allegiances, choices, or pledges bind them, so the seeds are slowly sprouting. The author stated that as compared to the original series, Game of Thrones centered on Starks and Lannisters. The Targaryens themselves are at the center of House of the Dragon, adding to it, describing the Hightowers' past. In terms of the history of Westeros, the Hightowers are the oldest, Martin explained. They've been there for thousands of years. Their seat of power is Old Town, which was for many thousands of years the biggest city in Westeros. They are a very rich house. Old Town is wealthy from trade mostly, and in the center of it is the High Tower, from which the Hightowers take their name. He also mentioned that Lord Hightower is in Old Town and governs the city's possessions from there. Otto, though, who plays the same role Ned Stark did for Robert at the start of Game of Thrones, is the Hand of the King when the story begins. Then, there's another powerful family at play, which is the House Valyrian. Another family from the freehold of Valyria was the Valyrians, the most powerful empire, at least in the West in Martin's universe. Additionally, they got to Westeros before the Targaryens did. They were sailors, but they were not dragon lords. The freehold of Valyria was heavily heavily dependent on trade at the period, and it was in a favorable position to control trade with all of Westeros's kingdoms and other northern nations. They migrated as a result for commercial and financial reasons. George R.R. Martin stated that Corlys Velaryon is Lord Admiral and Masters of Ship like his ancestor of the same name when he introduced the key characters from House Velaryon and their relationship with Targaryens. The Velaryons have therefore held a very high position in the Council of House Targaryen ever since Aegon's victory, and after all of his travels, he wed Rhaenys Targaryen, the queen who never was. Aside from these families, let's not forget to address the elephant, or in this case, the dragon in the room, since they could literally change the course of the battle. This also explains why the Targaryens are pretty confident in their status. Speaking of dragons, Martin adds that they are incredibly powerful and can completely change the course of a conflict. It can fly, is deftly hit, and exhales fire. Therefore, one of the things that made the Targaryens very confident in their authority was their fear of dragons. And speaking of dragons, the show's co-runner, Miguel Sapochnik, revealed that each dragon in the show has its own personality. There should be plenty of the scaly, swooping, fire-breathing titular monsters in a Game of Thrones prequel series titled House of the Dragon, if there's one thing you want from it. Dragons were almost mythical in Game of Thrones, thanks to Daenerys Targaryen, who brought 3 of them back to life: Drogon, Rhaegal, and Viserion. To learn that there are a total of 17 fire-breathing creatures flying around in the new spin-off show, 9 of which will meet in the first season, confirmed by co-runner Miguel Sapochnik, is music to our ears because the dragon action made for some of the most memorable, exciting moments of the entire series. Do you know what Sapochnik and his team's biggest challenge will be when dealing with these irrational beings? Determining how they look. Sapochnik admits that he acquired a book containing hundreds of concept drawings, and his top priority is to avoid creating Drogon. So, based on the differences in their heads, he developed an entire hypothesis about how there were 3 different types of dragons. The group came up with a ton of ideas, but ultimately the showrunner claims they returned to Drogon. He acknowledges that Drogon is something similar to the Millennium Falcon. It hit something. The creatures may have ended up having a somewhat recognizable appearance, but they are not all the same. Every new dragon, according to Sapochnik, has a distinct personality. They are giving each of the dragons character features, and that is what is happening right now in our final segment of the animation. One of them has a problematic leg. Another one, who is somewhat neurotic, resembles an eagle much more. Another one is like a gruff, elderly grandmother. And that's pretty much what you could all expect in the upcoming fantasy series House of the Dragon on HBO this August 21st. What are you most excited about in the upcoming show? Let us know in the comment section below. Before you go, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to our channel for more videos like these. We'll see you again next time, and thanks for watching.